Welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news and update show. Deadline day is tomorrow and wow, there is a lot to talk about. A lot is going on and I think the next 24 to 48 hours is going to be pretty crazy because look, we're clearly getting a goalkeeper in the door. Making offers for Emi Martinez is probably because Royal Antwerp are putting the Lammens price up every time we go back in for him, and we're probably saying to Royal Antwerp, well, look, it's not Lammens or nothing. We'll just go for another goalkeeper to try and get Lammens to lower the price. And Lammens medical was booked, waits pending on final details. Lammens should be done today, but if we don't get Lammens, we will make a move for Emi Martinez and offer Jadon Sancho as part of that deal to Aston Villa. Go. Are we going to get rid of him, please? So we will talk about that. We've got updates on Baleba and his future. We've got updates on Ruben Amorim. We've got updates on the midfielder. Man United want a midfielder once Lammens is done, but we'll be able to get a midfielder. David Ornstein has suggested it could be a loan, but who? Could we make a late push for Baleba? Please. I'm going to delude myself into believing that it's still possible, but I don't think we will. Obviously, talks are continuing to get Lammens before the deadline, but this Emi Martinez stuff has come in. And we obviously got a Here We Go yesterday, for Rasmus Hojlund, which I completely missed. So, yeah. And then we're going to see what happens with Anthony and Betis and Anthony's exit in the next 24 hours. There could be some big twists in regards to Anthony's future in the next 24 hours. Malacia, Sancho, because 3 of the bomb squad are still here. There was so much news that came out yesterday, but I'm not feeling 100% well at the moment. I think I'm coming down with a cold, so sorry about that. So I didn't cover a lot of the news that came out last night, so I'm going to cover that in today's live stream, so we're all up to date and keep you up to date on everything. So yeah, let's dive into it because there's so much to get into, starting with the news that came out this morning. Exclusive! Manchester United make an approach with Aston Villa for Emi Martinez. I've never heard anyone call him Dibu before this month, and then everyone keeps calling him Dibu. I've only ever heard him be called Emi Martinez. Just a random one. I don't know if anyone else had heard me called something different. Talks remain ongoing for Lammens, while Man United want to be ready if deal collapses with less than 48 hours to go. So I read this morning. My first thought was Lammens was meant to be 14 to 17 million pounds. All of a sudden, why is that gone off? All of a sudden, Manchester United come in the door and they want 21, 22, 23 million for him. Royal Antwerp all of a sudden put the price up a good 5 million, 5, 6, 7 million because he agreed to join Manchester United. They want a bidding war. So Man United's response to that and praised Man United was, okay, we'll just go for Emi Martinez. He's a better keeper. And you got to respect Man United for that. Our response to, you've put the price up 6, 7 million from what you... let's be honest. If, Lille. If Lille had gone for Sen Lammens at the beginning of the window, they'd have sold them to Lille for 15, 16 million because it's Lille. It's Man United, we want 22 million. That's what it is. Let's be honest. So we've said, well, you're just taking the mick with the price now. We're going to go for other option. So we've made an approach for Emi Martinez to let them know we have other options, better options. And now all of a sudden, we think that Royal Antwerp might go, oh crap, we need to sell the guy. We've already got his replacement because they've already got Lammens' replacement in the door. Man United aren't going to pay up this amount. Let's lower the fee back to what it was meant to be. What we would have sold him for if anyone that wasn't Manchester United had come in for him. And I think this is good that United have alternatives. I think United had gone for Emi Martinez to drive the Lammens price down. I think it's Lammens who we really want. I think probably because of wages. I think the reason we don't want Emi Martinez is purely because of Onana's wages. When Onana's on 180k a week or something, you don't want another goalkeeper on those kind of wages. Having 2 keepers on those kind of wages isn't easy. So I think United are pretty much just using him to get Lammens price down. And Romano did say we're trying to get the Lammens deal done today. Maybe we're going for a midfielder on deadline day. Goalkeeper today, midfielder deadline day. I'm going to delude myself into believing in Baleba until the final hour of the transfer window. I'm going to delude myself into it. I want it to happen. I'm sorry. We cannot go into the season without signing a midfielder. I don't know if we're going to sign a midfielder. But I think if Amorim's going to make it work, he needs a midfielder. If we sign Amorim, a top midfielder that can run crazy amounts of ground, I think Amorim can survive this year. and I think we can build something. But I think if we don't sign a midfielder, my confidence in Amrin making it to the end of the season is quite low. Because we've got Casemiro, Ugarte, Bruno, and Maino. That's 4 options. Yeah, Casemiro was mint yesterday, but his legs. Ugarte is ticking time bomb. Maino don't suit the system. And to be honest, no one suits. Bruno doesn't even suit the system deeper. No one suits the system deeper. To get the best out of Maino, belabor. To get the best out of Bruno, belabor. We need someone who's a bit of a Casemiro, but with Ugarte's legs. Because Casemiro's legs just... who can cover... We need a Moises Caicedo. That's what we need. That's what we need. Like, someone said one midfielder isn't enough. One midfielder is enough to get us by. We need a second midfielder next year. I'd love Belabor this summer, Wharton next summer. Like, that's what I would see is what United need. But, yeah. People say we need to stop playing with Shamiro. I think Casemiro's been alright. I wouldn't have taken Casemiro off yesterday. I think he's been good. Bruno was bad. Bruno was good yesterday. He gave the ball away when we were having a lead, which ultimately resulted in the goal. But if you're going off the whole game and the control Bruno had, the amount of chances he created, Bruno created 6 chances in the first half. He had like 100 touches. He scored a penalty in a high-pressure moment. He should have had about 3 assists. I honestly don't get how you could watch that game and your takeaway is Bruno was the worst player on the pitch. I don't know how you could watch that game. Delot was, you could probably say, was the worst player, but Delot actually had good moments. Nobody was actually bad yesterday. We just had good and bad moments. Like Delot had some good moments, Delot had some bad moments. But look, we played with Bruno without Grimsby. Could have been 3-0 down at half time. We then played the last league game we played without Bruno that mattered was, of course, versus Newcastle, where we were 2-0 down at half time, and it was the worst thing you'd ever seen. And Xerxes got booed off at half time. And the last league game before that we played without Bruno because he was injured was when we lost 4-0 to Crystal Palace, and probably the worst performance we had under Ten Hag. So Bruno Fernandes, as I've said many times, may not suit Amorim's system, may give the ball away, may have areas of his game that really don't suit Amorim's system, but he's such an elite level, world-class quality player that without Bruno Fernandes, we were a lot worse. And that's a fact. But I'd like a big midfield signing. So let's talk about Lammens, because Mike McGrath has come out and said that United have made an approved offer to send Lammens, and it's down to the player, medical to date, if he agrees. Now, this is interesting because Romano is saying, well, Lammens has agreed personal terms. He wants the Man United move. It's all fine on the player side. We just now got to agree something with Royal Antwerp. Mike McGrath is basically saying that we've still got to agree with Lammens. Now, I'm confused because Romano has pretty much said Lammens wants to come, personal terms agreed, pretty much that. Mike McGrath is saying, well, Lammens needs to agree to join United. So even if we agree a deal with Antwerp, we then got to convince Lammens to join, which is a bit weird because Romano said that Lammens wants to join and it's Manchester United that he wants. But another journalist is saying, once the deal is done, we convince Lammens to join. So that confuses me. But he said, look, if the player agrees, the medical's today. The medical is ready for Lammens today. We want to get the deal done for Sen Lammens today. We know that we're trying to get the deal done for Sen Lammens today. We know we're going in for a better offer. And we're going to put in, basically, what I read as is this. We are going to put in the new bid for Sen Lammens today. We're going to put in the new bid for Sen Lammens today. If that bid gets rejected, we will, because we think it's a fair bid and it gets rejected, we will look at Emi Martinez. Now, Mike McGrath mentioned that we inquired about Emi Martinez as like a contingency. And in that inquiry, there was discussions about Sancho going the other way. I assume on loan with us paying half of his wages, but there was inquiries about Sancho going the other way. I think we want Lammens over Martinez for wage reasons. I think we're trying to use Martinez to get the men's bid down. I think the fact that we've got Romano to put out that we've made inquiries about Emi Martinez just before we're going to put this final Lammens bid in is to try and put pressure on Antwerp to accept this Lammens bid. I think it's all a game from Man United. I think it's all a game. We're going to put in a bid for Lammens today because we want to get the Lammens deal done today. Antwerp are putting Man United tax on us. Before we make our bid, let's let Antwerp know that we want Emi Martinez and that we're back in for Emi Martinez. So they know if they don't accept this bid, we'll just go for Emi Martinez. Because what Man United are going to bid is what they believe is a fair bid. That is sort of the way that I see it. Because you've got to remember, Royal Antwerp have signed goalkeepers. They don't need him. They've got their replacement sorted. So Royal Antwerp need him to go. And look, is he going to go to Man United or Galatasaray? He's obviously going to pick Manchester United. I don't know why Mike McGrath and these other sources are suggesting that Lammens is got to choose between Man United and Galatasaray. No offense to Galatasaray, but if you know, Premier League or Turkey probably warmer, better food, you can get good money, but it's the Premier League. It's the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't get this whole, he needs to figure out if he wants to go to Man United or wants to go to Turkey. Romano said he's agreed terms, so I'm confused about that. But yeah, looks like we should have that sorted. But we have had a here we go. We have had a here we go, people, and a very positive one. Breaking Rasmus Hojlund to Napoli, here we go. Verbal agreement done between all parties, loan deal for €6 million fee, which is £5 million, with a buy option to become mandatory under certain conditions worth €44 million, which is £38 million. Hojlund says yes to Napoli days ago, set the medical, and there's obviously images of Hojlund having his medical. He's landed in Napoli. There's a lot of footage in Hojlund in Napoli. He's going to be announced by Napoli today. But we've made $5 million just from the loan fee, and we've made 38 million just from the obligation. Now the obligation becomes an obligation to buy if Napoli get Champions League football. So if Napoli finish in the top four, which they're very much expected to do, they're Serie A favourites this season. If Napoli finish in the top four, they have to give us 38 million for Hojlund. We saved 5 million in Hojlund's wages. We've got 5 million for Hojlund going on loan, which is 10 million in total. So we've already got, I think it's actually 9.4 million or something. We've already got just under 10 million from already for Hojlund. And if Napoli qualify for the Champions League, and they're expected to qualify for the Champions League, it'd be like saying if Liverpool get top four, you have to buy them. Well, we all know Liverpool are going to get top four. Then they have to give us 38 million. So that means in total, in the next year, we could be getting 48 million for Hojlund, if we're including the wages. So, because that's what they did in the Rashford deal to make it sound better, because we saved 16 million on wages. So if we look at it that way, the Hojlund here we go is very good for Manchester United. That's a nice amount of money in the door. Of course, his book value is high, so it doesn't actually mean we can spend because it doesn't actually mean we can spend 40 million plus, but it puts us in a better position financially. We've got 40 million in pure profit for Garnacho. We've got 40 million plus for Rasmus Hojlund in the door. Now it's Sancho out, Antony out. If we can get Sancho and Antony out and get them off the wage bill, Sancho and Antony's wages must come to Sancho annual wages. Let me actually look at this. Annual wages. So Sancho's annual wages are apparently 13 million a year. Antony annual wages, this is who we need out the door now, is 6 million a year. So we're looking at about 19 million a year. We're looking at 19 million a year saved if we can get Sancho and Antony out. We've obviously saved about 15 million. I think it's 14 million with Rashford out the door because people forgot the Champions League tax. So there's 14 million with Rashford out the door. And we can potentially turn that into over 30 million of wages saved if we can get Antony, Rashford and Sancho out the door. We saved like 7-8 million with Eriksen leaving, 6-7 million with Lindelof leaving. The wages and the money we've made through wage departures has been good. So yeah. Onana must go. I tell you what, Onana should go. After that performance versus Grimsby, Onana should never play for Manchester United again. I'm sorry. It wasn't just the fact that he led in 2 goals that he should have saved and that a League 2 keeper would have saved, and a League 2 keeper did save chances like that because we saw the Grimsby goalkeeper make some very good saves. It wasn't just that. Do you know what it was? It was the fact that there was about 4 penalties that he got a hand on and actually weren't that good of penalties that he saved, and he still let them in. And do you know what was mad is Onana kept getting his hand on these penalties and they still wouldn't, and they'd still score. And I just knew that Grimsby, after about penalty 6, were going to win. I knew that Grimsby were going to win because they said Onana's not going to save another one. You could shoot 20 penalties at him and he's not going to save another one. He's just not. Do you know what's mad? Lammens saved 5 penalties last season. Lammens saved more penalties last season than Onana has saved in his whole career. So, I mean, I think when United saw that penalty shootout and saw that Lammens had saved more penalties in one season than Onana had in his whole career, fair enough. But it has been broken that we are making an approach to Emi Martinez. We're looking at potentially offloading Harry Amos on loan if we can. So that's one to watch there. I'm just seeing if there's any news. So yeah, the plan is for United to offload Harry Amos on loan, to sell Antony, to sell Sancho, to probably loan out Malacia at this rate, and to get Lammens in and then move for a midfielder and see if they can get one of the goalkeepers gone. That is what Manchester United are looking to do at the moment in the next sort of 32, 33, 34 hours. So it could be really, really busy news-wise. So if you are not subscribed to the channel and you want to stay up to date on all the latest news, I will be covering it. I'm a little bit ill at the moment, which is annoying because you've just not waited till the transfer window is over to be ill. That's life. But yeah. Someone said the transfer deadline's today. It's tomorrow. Transfer deadline is tomorrow. When I'm convinced it's when is transfer deadline day? It is tomorrow. It is tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Why are people saying it's today? I don't know. Maybe because today's the 31st of August, but it is the 1st of September. It normally goes in the first few days of September, which I like. There's talks of closing the transfer window like the 13th of August when the season starts, which is BS because imagine 3 games into the season, you get a big injury, or 3 games into the season, you realise that isn't working. So I don't agree with the people that want to close the transfer window mid-August when the season starts. I think the transfer window is more exciting the last 2 weeks because we see how the season starts and players get injuries. Arsenal would have never gone for Eze had Kai Havertz not been injured. And, Tottenham would have never ended up with Xavi Simons. So I like this sort of, having the transfer window open for 3 weeks while everyone panics at the start of the season. I think it makes it more interesting. And when United are so slow at getting deals done, we need it. Do you think Amas is going to go on loan to PSV? Let me see if there's any news on Amas. I want to obviously talk about midfield. There's not really much news on Amas. Sheffield Wednesday looking at him, but I don't know if the Sheffield clubs have been shocking, and I don't know if it's the right environment for him. But yeah. Anyway, let's continue on. What did we learn versus Burnley? A number 6 that can cover crazy amounts of ground and better than Nagati on the ball when a goalkeeper's needed. What did we learn versus Arsenal? A number 6 that can cover crazy amounts of ground but better on the ball than Nagati and a goalkeeper is needed. What did we learn versus Fulham? A number 6 that can cover crazy amounts of ground but better on Nagati and the ball and a goalkeeper is needed. What have we learned from every single game we played this season and some of the preseason games? That we need a number 6 and that we need a goalkeeper. Now, United are mission get a goalkeeper in, but they must go and get a number 6. Man United must sign them. Ruben Amorim, his pressure is on. He got a win versus Burnley. Wasn't the most convincing win. First half was fantastic. Had we dropped points, the blame would have been on the players for missing chances, and I think Bayern could have done better for the second goal. But the pressure is on Ruben Amorim. And I've always said, I'm losing faith and belief in Ruben Amorim because he's not adapting and changing things. And I feel that when the opposition changed their tactics at half-time, we go from having a really good first half to a crap second half because we don't know how to respond to that. Yeah? But Ruben Amorim has not got a midfielder and he's not got a goalkeeper on the door. And you cannot sack Ruben Amorim after 3, 4, 5 games of the season. I've got a lacking confidence of Amorim. I'm struggling to believe he's the right man, but I'm not Amorim out because you literally can't back a manager and sack him after 3 games. The signings are going to need time to click. They're going to need time to click. I'm worried about Amorim. I'm worried he's going to get sacked in November, December. I want Amorim to make it work. I want Amorim to go win 5 games in a row. I do not want to sack another manager. I'm fed up with sacking managers. And who is on the market that we really want? Nobody. I'm fed up with this sacking manager cycle. I want Amorim to make it work. But for Amorim to make it work, he's going to need a midfielder and a goalkeeper. And we look like we're going to bring in that goalkeeper, but he's going to need a midfielder. I think he could. Hopefully, Amorim makes it work if we don't sign a midfielder. But I feel like if we're going to make it work under Amorim, we need him a midfielder because the way he plays, we never replace Eriksen, but he plays with such expansive athletic midfielders that we don't have. One injury to Casemiro and it's Ugarte time. Just for me, I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I don't want Ollie. I don't want Jose. I struggle to believe in this manager. I've lost a lot of faith in this manager. But I'm also aware of the fact you can't just be reactionary and sack a manager after 3 games. He needs a little bit of time to make it work. And he also needs the backing. He needs a midfielder. He's got all these attackers in call, but given that midfielder. And if you give him Lammens and you give him Baleba, and we're 12 games into the season and we're absolutely crap, we can have a conversation. Because I think the players were at fault yesterday. If we had not won, I think the players would have been at fault yesterday. But Fulham. We were brilliant for Fulham for 30 minutes. We were unbelievable against Fulham for 30 minutes. Marco Silva then went, we're going to overload the midfield and press them high. We couldn't do anything versus Fulham in that second half. That second half versus Fulham was atrocious. Versus Burnley, We were brilliant versus Burnley. We were fantastic versus Burnley. We should have been 3-0 up. And Amorim had coached one of the best first half performances I'd seen. Yeah? Well done, Amorim. Players missed chances. Amar should have scored. Cirque should have scored. We should have been 3-0 outside out of mind. Had we dropped points yesterday, it would have been on the players, not Amorim. But second half, what did Burnley do? Burnley completely changed their approach at half time. Burnley in the first half sat off us, gave us space. Burnley in the second half were chasing a goal. They went high press, overload midfield, and all of a sudden we had an end-to-end game with Burnley in the second half. A game that we should have been 3-0 up in at half time, and that is on the players. Yeah, 100% on the players. Turned into an end-to-end game. And what worried me was, okay, if it was end-to-end for 15 minutes, and then Amorim had made a few small tweaks and calls, and then we gained control again, that's fine. But it was end-to-end for 45 minutes, and that's my concern with Amorim. Is he wouldn't have been at fault yesterday, but Fulham and today, as soon as somebody presses the system high, as soon as somebody overloads the midfield, we struggle. We were brilliant versus Arsenal. We were brilliant the first half versus Fulham. We were brilliant the first half yesterday, but they changed their approach, pressures high and overload midfield, and we don't have an answer for that. And that's something that Amorim needs to come up with. As I said, the players would have been at fault yesterday for missing the chances, but that's something Amorim needs to come up with. And I think we need a goalkeeper that isn't going to let in silly chances from corners, because I think a better goalkeeper, and we would have got a point versus Arsenal. A better goalkeeper, and we would have, had won that game a lot more comfortably today. A better goalkeeper, and we'd have had at least another point, potentially 4, which is crazy, had we had a better goalkeeper. But we also need a midfielder. And I think if we get that, then, let's see what Amorim can do. Give him a few games, because it's going to take time for Sesko to click. We know that Mbeumo's quality. Hopefully Cunha's injury isn't bad. Give it time to click. See confidence is going to play a big part, and let's see what happens. But if you want to make a way, you need to give Amorim a midfielder. You need to give Amorim a midfielder, because, look, if they sack Amorim in November because the midfield is crap, a lot of that is on the board. Like, I've lost a lot of faith and belief in Amorim. I'm not his biggest fan. But if they sack Amorim in November and they didn't bring in a midfielder, for me, that is on the board. That is on Ineos, because Amorim has made it clear he needs that, and he needs a midfielder. And I'm going to talk about the midfield news. No updates on Cunha, but he's pulled out of international duty. Look, positive. Mbeumo and Cunha, after 3 games, they're ballers. Like, we've got top players in them. The players are mostly at fault, Alice. From the season start, I look at their intensity levels for each game. We can create so many chances and not win. We need to be clinical. We need to be more clinical. But I agree, a lot of the fault is on the players. But Amorim needs to learn how to control games in the last half an hour. How many times under Amorim have we bottled leads? So many times. Amorim needs to learn how to control a game out as a manager. The players need to know how to bloody take some chances, don't they? They need to learn how to take some chances. I want to talk about the midfield news. Romana says that we want a midfielder. David Ornstein spoke about getting a midfielder. I want to get into that. It would have been nice to have seen 3 in the middle. For me, when we were lost control to Burnley, I would have rather Amorim had taken a centre-back off than Casemiro off. Because Maino, Bruno midfield pivot isn't going to give us control, because they're 8s. We didn't have a 6. And I would have rather him taken someone like Luke Shaw off or De Ligt off and brought Sesko on. And then that way we would have had a midfield 3. I'm not saying that Amorim needs to change formation and play 4 at the back. Like, he can succeed playing 5 at the back. But I think when you're chasing a goal versus Burnley, why not take a centre-back off? Why is it always a midfielder that comes off? Because I feel like when you take off a midfielder, you lose control. Why can't we try things like taking off a centre-back and going to 3 in midfield and getting control of the midfield? Because for me, the reason the Burnley game was end-to-end is because we lost control of the midfield. And we shouldn't have even been in that situation. The players should have put their chances away, and we should have been 3-0 up at half-time, and it should have been a cruise. But it wasn't. It wasn't. And that was frustrating. I thought Luke Shaw was good yesterday. I think Luke Shaw's been good this season. People stand with Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw hasn't done anything wrong this season. Like, he's played in our games. And look, did I want Luke Shaw at the club this season? No. But has Luke Shaw been good? Yes. Has Cunha been good? Yes. Has Mbeumo been good? Yes. They've been good. So, why have I got all these alarms going off? So look, Euro has been good this season. De Ligt has been good this season. Luke Shaw has been good this season. Mason Mount has been good this season. Cunha hasn't been good this season, and Boomer's been good this season, but we're only 4 games in. So let's talk about the midfield news, because obviously there's chat on United, signing a midfielder, all of that kind of stuff. We need to put away our chances. Yeah, Bruno could have had 2 assists. Boomer could have had 2 assists yesterday as well. Yeah, Mount is injured. Is there any updates on that? Mount and Cunha injured is a big blow. We just knew that Mount was going to get injured, but Cunha getting injured is a big blow for me, because I felt that we weren't as good once Cunha came off. What Cunha did yesterday was he could pick up the ball and he could drive with it. And Cunha, you know, people talked about him walking a lot, but he brings such intensity. He brings such intensity, Matheus Cunha. And he's one of the only players we have at this club that can pick up the ball and drive with it, Cunha. One of the only players we have at this club that can pick up the ball and drive with it. So, apparently Garnacho's saying, moving to Chelsea was a step up. Well, it is, to be fair. I'm not going to read into Garnacho's interview taking digs at United. Tottenham moving for Nathan Ake, apparently. Interesting, yeah. But going back to Cunha, hopefully he's not out for long. Cunha's more concerning than Mount, even though Mount started the season well. Just because Cunha can pick up the ball and drive a bit. And I think when Cunha came off, I actually noticed that little drop-off. We need Bruno back at 10 so Maino can get game time. I'm not thinking about it like that. I think some games Bruno's better deeper, some games Bruno's better further up. But our best 10s are Cunha and Mbeumo, because they suit the system, because they're sort of wingers / 10s, whereas Bruno is a central 10. So they're the 2 most important players for me, Cunha and Mbeumo, because they can carry the ball and they're mint. And we know that. Bruno, world-class player, can play anywhere. I would like 4-2-3-1 with Bruno as a central 10, boom. And Mbeumo could cook centrally, and Mbeumo looks good. Do you know what the good thing about the Cunha situation is? It's the international break. So if he's out for 4 weeks, he's only out for 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? That's the good thing. So I want to talk about midfield news. Alice, 3-4-3 system is not the issue. It's the players. I'm not saying that the formation is the issue, but I think elements of the system could be improved. It doesn't matter which 2 play in midfield, we get overrun. And Amrin has got to look at solutions for that. Does he play Casemiro central centre-back and make him step up into midfield and form a midfield 3 out of possession? I don't like how the midfield is overrun. I even think with Baleba coming in, I still just think there's a way that we need to adapt how we build up and how we are in central areas. I think we just need to look at, I think for me, the centre-backs are better in the system, but I think the midfield needs to be focused on. Anyway, thanks for the super chat. Let's continue. Romano on potential midfield signings for Manchester United. At the moment, their focus is on Lammens. Let's see what happens in terms of midfielders if there's the right opportunity, and when Manchester United want to sign a midfielder. So Romano has obviously said many times that Amrin and Man United want to sign a midfielder, but he said right now the focus is on Lammens, but let's see what happens in terms of midfielders if there's the right opportunity. Romano's sort of wording, and he said it many times, is Man United want a midfielder, Amrin want a midfielder. We're focusing on Lammens right now, which will probably take to deadline days. We don't have time to get a midfielder as an excuse. But we do want a midfielder, but it depends on opportunities. David Ornstein said, look, if there's a midfielder that's available on loan, United could very much explore that. Again, we're looking at midfield, we're looking at opportunities. The sense that I'm getting is no, we're probably not going to go back and put that bid in for Baleba, despite the hope, despite Baleba wanting to move. Sadly, I don't think we're going to come in and make that bid for Baleba. But Baleba deal isn't off, and we know that because Laurie Whitwell said that. It was said in regards to Baleba, I wouldn't say the deal is dead. They got to the point of him wanting to come. I would never write anything off, especially under this regime, but I wouldn't say that it's likely. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that it's completely off. So Laurie Whitwell's basically saying he can't see us getting Baleba, but he can't say that it's 100% off. You never know with this regime. They very much want him. The player very much wants to move. They could go back in for him late. So if we can get a Baleba bomber today, that would be good. Conor Gallagher's been linked again on loan, but dodgy source. We won't go for Rabiot because he's a big red flag. We won't go for Rabiot. I wanted to show you something about Bruno Fernandes. Bruno problem Fernandes, people. This is, Bruno, he should have gone to Saudi. Bruno holding us back, he should have gone to Saudi. Fernandes here. Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm going to get copyright for that clip at the bottom. For fuck's sake. Let me zoom in a bit. There we go. Oh, there we go. I've got to be careful not to show clips of games, even if it's at the bottom and I've shared my screen. But look, Laurie Whitwell said on the Belabored deal, not Belabored deal, sorry. This is Bruno's stats. Bruno Fernandes, chances created 12, Anton Stats 10, and Bumo 9, Drewsbury Hall 8. Do you know what's mad is to think that we've created like one of the most chances in the league. And we're still, I think we scored one open play goal. We scored one open play goal this season, but we've created more chances than most other teams. I feel like we're cursed sometimes. I actually feel like we're cursed sometimes. I feel like we're cursed. Let's not be stat merchants. It's not even being stat merchants. He was like second for ball recoveries, second for passes and touches and chances created. Like, I don't think people realise that when we lose Bruno, we're going to be like, what? Like Grimsby, Crystal Palace, Newcastle. The games without Bruno Fernandes have been atrocious. They've been atrocious. I mean, hopefully the goals are coming. Basically, we got two things. If it clicks in attack, which it will with time, when it clicks in attack, we get confidence and the goals come, we'll be a lot better off. And then we just need Amrin to be a little bit more adaptable when it comes to closing out games. If we can sign a midfielder and sign a goalkeeper, give it a little bit of time to click and attack and get some confidence in and start scoring, and Amrin can actually learn how to close out a game and control a game in the last half an hour and adjust his tactics, then I think we will succeed. But we need those things to happen for me. I think that's what we need to see. Would you sign a centre-back? No, I'd sign a midfielder and a goalkeeper. I don't think we need a centre-back. Maybe next year. And Bumo is good. Bruno's been top of chance of great stats for years. And the mad thing is, he probably creates twice as many chances as everyone else in the league, but probably won't finish first for assists because of how bad we are at finishing chances. Ahmad should have scored. Ahmad and Xerxes should have scored today. Ahmad and Xerxes should have scored yesterday. 100%. Guys, I am going to probably wrap up the news show here, but before I do, I want to just see if there's any news. Jamie Vardy is moving to the Serie A. So that's some breaking news there. In regards to that, Liam Delap could be out for 3 months. That's why Nicholas Jackson, who was set to go to Bayern Munich for a 15 million loan fee, which is an absolute joke, is now back. Stuttgart are going to sign El Kanous. Stuttgart are looking to sign El Kanous. I think Stuttgart are one of my favourite teams to watch. I watched them about 3 times last season, so I'm not going to... No, I watched them about 4 times last season. But I watched them a few more times the season before. And with the Bundesliga now being shown, Stuttgart, one of my favourite teams to watch, by the way, they've got some ballers there. Obviously, Stiller. Obviously, Voltavada, that was signed by Newcastle. They got some good players there. Voltamada could be very good, but he's going to need time to adjust. But they look like they're getting El Kanous. Just seeing if there's any interesting transfer news going about. United just ready to make a bid for Lammens today and get the deal done for Lammens today. Liverpool, Newcastle, obviously not Liverpool, Newcastle. Liverpool, Arsenal on this afternoon. So yeah, I'm going to wrap up the show here. But thank you everyone for watching. See you next time. Bye.